The following program makes use of copywritten material as part of a psychological examination of music. All music copyrights remain property of their respected creators. Welcome to the Conversationalists with John and Niko. We have a showcase special for you guys tonight. Radiohead.
Radio motherfucking head.
And luckily enough, we actually have a special guest tonight.
We flew him all the way from the fucking UK. Ladies and gentlemen, Tom motherfucking York. Woohoo! It's great to see you, Tom. How you doing?
Is this on?
Tom, you got to put your headphones on.
I don't hear any snare.
There is no snare.
No, there's no snare in my headphones.
No, there's not supposed to be snare. There's no music being played.
What percussions? What is the percussions?
There's no percussions either.
There's no percussions?
No.
I still don't hear any snare.
There's not supposed to be any snare.
But the percussions.
There's no percussions, Tom. Tom, lead us into the show, please.
Well, welcome to the Conversationalists.
So today we are talking about a band that we both, I'd say we appreciate it. Love it, probably.
I think they're just all right.
I adore them.
All right.
But before we begin, let's go ahead and start with our traditional clinky.
Right.
So Radiohead is a band that actually I discovered when I was really, really young. Like, how old were you when you discovered them?
I was maybe the fifth grade.
Now, keep in mind, their first album came out in like '93.
Right.
So how long after, like, did you get into them like when they were already like a couple albums in, or were you there for the beginning?
I don't think I was quite there for the beginning.
Right.
But their beginning was the first introduction for me.
Okay.
I got the CD in a garage sale. My mom brought home a video game, and I think the video game wasn't even playable for the technology I had. But
so wait, let me just want to clear this up. A Radiohead video game, or was it just a completely different video game?
Right, it was a completely different video game.
Okay, because I'm starting to think you were saying there's a Radiohead video game somewhere out there, which I'm sure would be really amazing. But
I think there's an actual app on your phone that you can get, which is pretty cool. It's a Radiohead, but it's only if you've got one of those iPhones.
Them fancy pants phones.
Fancy pants phones.
See, I'm not that fancy.
Yeah, well, I am. So, no.
I'm so fancy.
Just to clarify, Radiohead is one of my favorite bands. I was just kidding earlier.
Oh, I believe you.
Right. Yeah. The first one I got was Pablo Honey, that was in the video game case for a video game that my mom thought she bought at a garage sale, and I listened to Pablo Honey, and of course, I heard the song "Creep,"
right,
and I liked it, but I don't think that it was something that really blew up for me as much as the song "You" did. Oh man, first track on the album, I loved it.
A fantastic introduction to this band, I would say.
Oh yeah,
first track, first out, their debut album.
Yeah,
I mean, what better way to start off with a song like "You"?
Right.
You know what I mean? Now, when I first heard Pablo Honey, of course, it was like everybody else. I heard Creep. Now, I think Creep had a bigger impact on me. I didn't hear it. Okay, I'll get it out of the way. I always knew Radiohead was out there.
Right.
But I didn't get into them until I was a little bit older.
Yeah.
I think when you're a kid, you just sort of listen to what's on the TV or what's on the radio. Of course, I did see their music videos on the TV, and I did hear their songs on the radio, but I didn't hone into it at first. But I always knew they were there. I always knew that there was a band called Radiohead.
Right.
But I didn't hear Creep until I was a little bit older. So I think that's why it affected me a lot more, just because my taste in music had processed and developed a little bit better. So listening to them, And listening to that song, I mean, lyrically, Creep is probably one of the most deepest songs I've ever heard.
Do you think so?
I think so. Not in their entire catalog of music, but I think at the age that I was at, the weirdo that I was at, like, okay, I'll good. I was probably 13 years old whenever I got into Radiohead. Just whole honesty, I was probably like 13 years old.
Right.
But like I said, I always knew that they were around. But before I decided to listen to them, I was probably about 13. So when I hear Creep, and I'm just sort of turning into trying to figure out who I was as a young teenager, and hearing that song Creep, I was like, it's kind of speaking to me in a way, but it wasn't so much just the lyrics. It was like there was that aggression in the music, and it's only for like a split second. I think you know what part I'm talking about.
Yeah.
It's the I sounded like Beavis and Butthead for a second.
We both did. It was,
But I remember listening to that for the first time, and even as a young dude, I was like, oh my God, what the fuck is happening right now? Just because I was like so blown away. First off, that they could create that sound, because I'd never heard anybody create that sound before. And I always thought it was the bass guitar, but I think it's actually the electric guitar that's making that sound.
It had to add that grunge feel to it.
Yeah. But hearing that, I was just like, holy shit, this is so intense. And then the chorus, but I'm a creep, I'm a weirdo, what the hell am I doing here?
Yeah.
As a young kid that's very unsure of who he even was and felt like the literal black sheep of the herd.
Yeah.
That spoke to me a hell of a lot more,
Well, it's kind of like their style in general is that I guess that same kind of grunge feel. I mean, They also, whenever you look at them, they kind of almost have like this bony emo look to them.
Right, they do kind of look like a bunch of...
And this was way before emo was a thing that existed.
Like the guitarist has the haircut.
Right.
And
I mean, I don't look down on it anyway, but it's kind of a pansy feel. It really is something, in my opinion, that also does shape that particular aesthetic shapes the music for me, because it just kind of characterizes it into a completely different spot in my brain. It compartmentized,
Mm-hmm.
But this is one of the bands I really did want to bring into our podcast and just kind of talk about, because it really has an ultimate like feel to it. It's one of the most artsy bands that really get away with what they're trying to accomplish ultimately, in my opinion.
They stand out more than any band, I think. And I think even in today's generation of music, where you have a lot of out there weird bands that are almost considered mainstream, like bands that you would see on MTV. Like, I remember one night we were watching MTV. Why? I have no idea. But we weren't watching MTV. We were watching that other music television network, the one that has all the live concerts.
Right.
Do you remember Palladia?
Yeah, Palladia.
Yeah, we were watching the Palladia channel, because I think we were watching a Muse concert, or we were watching a concert, and then it kind of flowed in some music videos, and they're playing some really, really weird music.
Right.
Like music that made me think, how the hell is this on TV? How can these people get away with making this kind of music?
See, back in the early 90s, people were thinking that, but ultimately we look at that shit from the 90s, and we actually get it. And maybe there's there's gonna be a group of kids that feel the same way about the music.
But that makes me think if that people who listen to Pablo Honey for the first time, I think a lot of people thought of it as really weird, because in that time period.
Right. I actually, to be honest with you, I didn't really like any other song other than You and Creep. I liked it a lot, but I guess ultimately I got burnt out on it, because that was the only song that people want to talk about from Radiohead.
It did turn into their big pop hit.
Right.
But
Radiohead's one of those cult bands, in my opinion.
Oh, totally, yeah.
It's one of those bands that, there are some listeners to it, but the people who really listen to Radiohead really fucking listen to Radiohead.
Yeah. If you tell them that their favorite song is Creep, they'll probably shun you. Which is sad.
Well, no, and then that's how you know that this person doesn't really listen to Radiohead.
Yeah. I don't know. I just think that, Radiohead as a band, whenever they're first starting out, I mean, they had to be sort of looked at as weird and different. But I think there was something about that caught people's interest, you know, being the weirdo. I mean, because in 93, what was there? There was Nirvana, obviously. There was Pearl Jam. There was Soundgarden. And those were big bands.
Right.
Despite them being grungy alternative rock, when you literally think about it, those were like the headliner bands, big bands of their era. Yeah. And then you get Radiohead, that's these frail little weirdos from the UK, and they're singing these songs that are way out there. Yeah. You know, I can see how a lot of people are like, I don't think this is going to cut it.
Right, because it makes you think.
Exactly. Exactly. You know, Pablo Honey was actually, like, it got to, like, number 22 on the UK charts, right? Still went to go platinum. True story. Went 22 on the charts.
Right.
But then it made its way to, like, they sold so many albums that they made platinum. And that tells you a lot about their style. Like, it may not have been the most, like, intriguing thing or, like, the most catchy thing. Like, the thing that sucks who in, like, 93, that fucking Alanis Morissette or fucking, you know, like, those catchier tunes from back in the day. But people were interested in it. Oh, people were buying it. They were getting involved in it. And, like, that was what really shot-rocked them, you know?
It kind of really spoke to most teenagers out there, in my opinion.
I believe so, yeah. You know, I think... I mean, I was just a wee little one in 93, but...
It spoke to us, too.
It spoke to us, too, you know?
Right. I listened to the Pablo Honey, and I listened to those first two tracks, and I really enjoyed them. I didn't listen to them much outside of that, and then it was just like a long time before I even picked back up into Radiohead.
Me too. Like I said, I listened to Creep, obviously, because that was like the... I mean, I remember listening to it as a kid, and you know, it's like we said in a previous podcast. You know, you listen to something when you're younger, and then you listen to it when you're a little bit older, and it all comes back to you. You know, I listened to Creep when I was little, and then I listened to it again when I was 13, and it all came back to me. And I remember my dad used to sing that song when we were on, like, road trips or whatever. And it's funny to think of, like, this big, barely Mexican, like, I'm a creep. Like,
well, I guess it's better than the South Park's I'm a creep.
I do suppose so, but yeah, I listened to that song, but it was a little while before I dived into their other stuff. I mean, because this was like maybe 10 years past. Did you know that like I said, Pablo Honey came out in 93? It's over 20 years old.
Right, and also they started in 85.
They sure did. Do you know what their first band name was?
I did not look that one up.
On a Friday.
On a Friday?
On a Friday. They were called On a Friday because they used to rehearse on Fridays.
That's so gay.
So what would our band name would have been? On a Sunday, on a Wednesday, on a Saturday, on a Friday?
After Judith.
After Judith. Hey, that would have worked, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, they were called On a Friday, and that's whenever they would get together. And then, like, they would play shows in Oxford, UK, or something like that.
It was Oxford Inn or Oxford something
like that. And then, like,
Oxford
labels were like checking them out, which it makes me happy to hear that, because that was in the glory days of music. Whenever, like, you would play a gig and then you get word, hey, there's someone from a label in the audience, and then you get all excited. It's like, all right, guys, we gotta kick ass tonight. Even though I know they want to talk like that, it's like, okay, guys, well.
We gotta kick ass.
We gotta do really good. And the labels really liked it, but they were like, you gotta change that name. On a Friday isn't gonna work. So they actually took a Talking Head song called Radiohead, and they called themselves Radiohead.
Interesting
indeed. But
I mean, there's enough deep meaning in Radiohead in itself. Just the title alone, you know, you can go into several directions of what that could possibly mean.
Yeah, I'm sure. Oh, definitely. I'm sure we could try and figure it out. That makes me interested in listening to that Talking Heads song. Which I've never listened to Talking Heads before, so I have no idea, like, what kind of band or what style that is.
Right.
But if it's in, like, the 80s or, like, early 80s, then I'm sure it was probably do 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 do. Is that it?
No, that's not Talking Heads.
Oh shit! Okay.
that's like Aha. Isn't it?
I think so. Which is weird to think that Radiohead was an '80s band. Like they
they really weren't an '80s band. No, they started in '85, but
that's about midway into the '80s, and their first album came out in '93. So They were playing.
I wonder what kind of music they were really playing.
Totally, dude. Well, no, because I think UK bands. I think they were very.
They're always ahead of.
No. I think UK bands were very still in like that punk rock kind of mindset, like Sex Pistols and the Clash. Oh no, Clash wasn't a UK band. Just like that punk rock lifestyle. So I imagine maybe
Ramones.
No, Ramones was US all the way.
Was it?
Yeah.
I'm
The Buzzcocks.
I am fucking ignorant to punk rock.
Right, but I think when you're a young band and you pick up a guitar and you got a drum set, like you want to get as loud and rowdy as possible. Yeah. Even Led Zeppelin. Led Zeppelin was is a classic rock band, and Jimmy Page is a goddamn mastermind. But he even still spoke about like turning the volume up as loud as humanly possible and making it as raunchy and as loud as you can. So I can imagine UK bands being that same way too, like in the mid 80s.
On UK bands,
right?
I noticed like the closer they are to punk rock, the more true they are to themselves.
Right.
But in reverse, if they've actually got something that they're, I guess, conforming to within a label, they lose their fucking accent.
Oh, totally.
Isn't that weird?
That is kind of weird. I never thought of that before.
You think about the punk rock bands, they don't fucking lose it at all. Or even Radiohead, because Radiohead is a non-conformist band. At least ultimately, they came truer to that later in their career. But like most UK, man, they lose their, or at least really anything foreign, like garbage. You can't hear any kind of accent, deep Australian accent in Shirley Manson's vocals. But once, you actually hear an interview or a podcast with Shirley Manson, she like really fucking brings it out.
Right.
It's crazy.
I don't know, man.
Maybe we just talk slow. Us Americans, we talk so slow that we're like people singing.
I guess so. Well, okay, I have to admit to something. I kind of lied to you, which I apologize, John. I know that's hard for you to hear, but I actually did lie to you.
I can't believe you.
Creep wasn't the first song that I heard.
Creep wasn't? Okay, what was?
Paranoid Android.
Paranoid Android.
Paranoid Android was the first song by them that I ever heard. And this was a pivotal moment of my life. I'm talking... Okay,
you forgot.
I know I forgot. I'm sorry. I felt like I can't talk about Radiohead without talking about Creep. So I kind of put it out there.
We really could have gone this whole podcast without talking about it, but we knew that some of you guys...
Before we started, we made a silent agreement that we're like, okay, we're going to talk about Creep for just a little bit.
We're going to have to, just so somebody out there will be able to connect with this somehow.
But Creep actually wasn't the first song that I heard. It's the first... Okay. Paranoid Android. It was probably 97, I want to say it was. Yeah, a little bit, 97, 98, which I do believe was the year of music and movies.
Right.
So many great things came out in 97 and 98.
97 was whenever the album was released.
Yeah, I know, but I'm just saying, like, that time frame of those years, between those 2 years, were probably around the time that I heard it.
That you heard it, yeah.
I want to say I was 7 or 8 years old, and I was on summer break, and I was in Corpus Christi, Texas, and where I was at, like, Corpus Christi is a beautiful place, but where I was at was just the deep ghetto of Texas.
Yeah.
It was hot. There was the cicadas that were making the zzz sound all day long.
Cicadas.
Or chichadas, whatever you want to call them. I don't know. They're fucking annoying. But anyways, that's all.
You only see their shells usually.
Yeah. So I was a very bored little kid, and I used to spend all my time inside watching MTV. And if you remember, during that time period, there was like a lot of crazy TV shows like Celebrity Deathmatch.
Oh, yeah.
Do you remember Celebrity Deathmatch?
Well, I mostly remember the fucking music videos. I know exactly what you're talking about.
But like there was like there was stuff that just sucked me into the TV, like the television shows, the commercials, the people that they had on the TV, like the TV personalities. Like I couldn't stop watching MTV, and they were doing this whole like 8 hours straight music video marathon type thing. And one of the first songs that I heard off of that was Paranoid Android, the music video. And I remember just watching. Now, me being a kid and watching the music video is like a cartoon.
Yeah.
And being a kid and seeing a cartoon, it's like, yeah, sweet, a cartoon. You know, I love Ren and Stimpy. I love Rocco. I love all these cartoons.
It's about time one of these music videos has something I can relate to.
Exactly, because at that time, that's all I could relate to was fucking cartoons.
Right.
So I watched the video, and it's a really crazy video. I mean, about this dude in a hoodie. He's got a black best friend and fucking...
don't forget the hooker who shows her tits.
Oh, yeah. How could I forget about her?
And then the dude that has that thing coming out of his belly. It's like a person coming out of his belly, and I think it's meant to represent his junk.
See, I completely forgot about that part. I think I stored that away so I didn't have to see it, probably.
It's really not a music video for children. But I can imagine, you know, at 7 or 8, whenever that shit was actually interesting to you, because, wow, that's a concept I never thought of before.
All right.
Are they handing that woman money to look at her chest?
Well, see, okay, I will admit at that age, you know, you're starting to discover new things,
right?
You know, and as far as the opposite sex. So for me, I was like, yeah.
Oh,
I was real excited. I didn't even think about like
7 or 8. That's whenever, you know, maybe older than that, but at least that's whenever we're sitting there scanning through those channels looking for special channels to be on late at night, you know.
Oh, totally. But that wasn't one of the things that made me hooked onto that song or that video. I think at a young age I was starting to develop being able to feel music like that.
Right.
You know, because the song itself is just it changes so much.
Yeah.
So like your brain is always like just going and moving, and you're trying to keep up with it.
It doesn't have that typical structure of a song.
No, definitely.
It's not like go, you know, do the verse, chorus, hook, chorus, outro.
Yeah.
It's just it's on its own little fucking trip.
Totally.
You know?
So that being my introduction to them, anytime that the video would come on, I would always like jump to it. Like I would have to watch it. You know, like it sucks you in. You know, and it's always crazy that music can do that to you. But when you're a kid and you're discovering bands and you're discovering music that you think you might be into, the fact that you can hone into something like Paranoid Android and Radiohead of all bands at such a young age. Because I think for normal kids, or kids that weren't like us, you know, they usually listen to what, you know, their parents play or whatever their parents allow them to listen to. You know, it was
Usher.
Or Usher. Oh my God. That's a totally different podcast. I could go on for days.
Can we not?
Okay, I will admit I used to listen to the shit out of Usher and like Brandy and like fucking anything that would play on. No, true story. Anything that would play on MTV, I would sit down and I would listen to, because that was my exposure to music.
Right.
I had no other exposure to music other than what MTV played. So I think that's why I became so diverse in my likes. It's the music that I like. You know, because I genuinely enjoy like R&B music. I genuinely enjoy hip hop music. I genuinely enjoy rock. I
had a dark moment in my life where all I had was CMT.
Oh God.
Yeah, that's I don't know how I'm going into that.
That's okay. We don't have to talk about it.
Okay, please let's not talk about it.
We don't have to talk about it. It's okay. But no, what I was gonna say is listening to music that maybe you're not supposed to listen to, or like music that isn't like. I mean, I don't think my parents would have ever been disapproving of Radiohead, but like I was saying before, like how normal people, like their parents would like, oh no, change the channel. You can't listen to that. You're a little too young for that. Being told you're too young for that.
Yeah.
You know? So whenever I would listen to music like that, in a sense, before I even knew what pornography was, it was the same idea behind pornography. Like you're doing something you're not supposed to do, and that excites you.
Right.
You know, it's the most exciting thing in the world to break the rules. And in a way, for me as a kid, Radiohead was breaking the rules.
You know what was breaking the rules for me?
What?
Fiona Apple.
Ooh.
Yeah.
She was also around.
Exactly.
That's what I was saying, man. 97, 98, prime time years for media.
I think she was like 16 when she did that music video.
Oh, it makes me feel bad.
It does. It makes me feel bad,
I'm never
too.
watching that.
I should probably take it off my phone.
Oh, God.
So,
okay, but we're talking about Paranoid Android, and that came on OK Computer. There were some other amazing songs on that album. Karma Police. That one sort of became a little bit more popular than Paranoid Android. Like, Paranoid Android is like for the diehards, but I think Karma Police, like, anybody could have listened to and enjoyed it.
Right.
Like, I've heard like really amazing female singer guitar players cover that song and just fucking do so amazing at it.
Well, you know, the OK Computer album that we're talking about was the first self-produced album.
Was that was their first one?
That was their first self-produced album.
Oh, okay.
And that's the first one they were really starting to get into concept of consumerism, social alienation, emotional isolation, and politics. It was one of those really deep meaning kind of albums that they really came out with, and it was a pretty phenomenal album.
I say so myself. I think I liked it a lot just because, I mean, like, having listened to Pablo Honey and having listened to OK Computer and being able to know, like, being able to tell the difference between the two, like, you feel the difference in that one. Like, you know, it felt like, I'll use another 90s band, for example, fucking Nirvana. Okay?
Right.
Whenever Bleach came out, it was a good album. People probably didn't like it as much back in the day, but when you listen to it, it's pretty hard and heavy. And then you listen to Nevermind.
Yeah.
Total leap. You know what I mean? And I think that was a huge leap for Radiohead. I think that they were going off of a lot of momentum from Pablo Honey. That it was called one of the greatest debut albums.
Oh, really?
Ever. You know, for a band to like kick off their whole career.
Yeah, it really
Pablo
did
Honey
too.
was probably
and
the best
there was a lot of effects from that too. I don't think they were a band that really wanted to blow up like they did.
Yeah, totally.
Like, you can hear on the bends whenever they start talking about, you know, how Pablo Honey, you know, blew them up so high and how it affected them. There's one of the songs called My Iron Lung, which goes into detail about, you know, how they really didn't like who they became and how far away from, you know, their old reality they had become, you know.
Right.
And so, you know, after that, it was the whole OK Computer where they had a meaning that they wanted to go about. And
See, I totally forgot about the bands, even though like two of my favorite songs are on that album. Like, the Bends, it's easy to forget about that one, but there are like a lot of great songs on that album. Like fucking High and Dry and Street Spirit were two great songs off that album. And fucking High and Dry was actually like the first song that I ever learned how to play on the guitar. Like, well, I think, yeah, that was probably the first one. And I think I learned it because I showed it to a friend. And she was like, oh my God, I love this song so much. So I was like, all right, I got to win this girl over. I'm going to learn a Radiohead. I used Radiohead to pick up a chick. Who would have ever thought that?
Who'd have ever thought that?
But High and Dry is actually one of my favorite songs of all time. And Street Spirit, I remember you showed me Street Spirit. We watched the music video together.
That music video was awesome.
Yeah, and I remember that was like one of the first times I was actually like getting fucking really emotional towards the song. Like, I mean, I would listen to music and get real intense with it and rock out with it, but never did I ever feel emotional. Like, not sadness, but just like overwhelmed. I think overwhelmed is probably the best way to put it. And that was like the first time I'd ever felt that. And the fucking Street Spirit was like their first top UK hit. Like, that was one of their biggest hits.
I did not know that.
Yeah, it was their first. It was like, they did really well with Pablo Honey. It went platinum, obviously. But Street Spirit, the single, was like their first hit.
Wow. Well, have you heard the cover of that song?
By who?
The Darkness.
Oh my fucking God.
It's hilarious.
I bet it is.
It is. It's pretty funny because it's a whole different. I mean, they're not trying to make it sound like Radiohead, It's kind of heavy.
If I could just say this real quick, if we could go on a quick tangent on The Darkness. The first time I heard them, I thought it was a joke.
Well, it kind of is.
No, but like they're like an actual band
Right.
that started, and they were like, "This is our sound."
Right.
And it was fucking, I believe in a thing called love or whatever.
Right.
But I thought it was supposed to be a joke.
Right.
I thought it was just a silly music video. I thought it was like, you've seen bands like, okay, remember Blink-182? Like they came up with that song and they were like spoofing all like the pop song.
Right.
Not What's My Age Again. Doesn't even matter. We're not even talking about Blink-182. But they did a music video where they made fun of so many pop bands and pop music videos. So I thought it was a parody.
Right.
Of like big, loud 80s metal.
But that's what it is, though. It is a band which is making fun. It's a comedic aspect to it. I mean, it's meant to parody concepts and ideas
If
and
you
just
say so.
play with it.
I still think it's a fucking joke. That's all I'm gonna say. But yeah, I think we did listen to that cover, and I probably didn't care for it that much. I prefer the original version of Street Spirit.
I don't even think he used the exact same lyrics.
Because he's a no-talent hack. You heard it first on the Conversationalists. No, I'm just kidding. No, but fucking High and Dry and Street Spirit, those are really great songs off of the Bends. And I really think that that was their second album. And like I was saying before, like how a band takes a huge leap. I think they were starting to get their momentum with that album. You know what I mean? They had a lot more singles off of that album than they probably did on Radiohead. So a lot more music videos. I know that for sure.
Right. Well, one song we're missing from the Bends is also another one of my favorite songs, Just. Have you heard that one?
Yes, I have.
Such a beautiful song. The music video is phenomenal. It's one of those really makes you, want to think about things. Just fucking awesome.
What's your favorite Radiohead music video?
Oh.
See, I did the dickhead move and I tried to ask you what your favorite thing of a band is.
My favorite music video. Shit.
Okay, I'll stop you on that one.
Maybe All I Need.
All I Need?
Yeah.
From In Rainbows?
Yeah.
They had a music video for that?
Oh, man. Can we talk about that right now?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead. Let's go into that one.
Okay. The entire music video is 2 screens.
Okay.
You've got one on the left of a regular boy, puts on his shoes and goes to school, and it has like we're talking 12-year-old boy, puts on his shoes and then goes through, eats breakfast with his family, goes to school, comes home. The entire song is just that. You have on the right a 12-year-old boy in a foreign country, waking up, working in, he wakes up in the sweatshop he works in, and assembling, these shoes. Essentially at the end of the music video, you see the finished product of the shoe, and the one on the left side, with the boy who's got it made, taking his shoes off and puts it right there on the camera. It's the same fucking shoe. So it's the life of that shoe and how these boys are living their lives, and kind of it makes you think about how you should appreciate what you have in front of you and the kind of lifestyle you have.
Or maybe it's just an advertisement for that shoe.
I think it said Nike there at the end. A little check.
And then hear Tom York's voice, just do it. No, I'm just kidding.
Just do it.
It would be terrible to see Tom York in a commercial.
You see his face. One eye bigger than the other, with his hair sticking out, looking like a rooster. Like a drugged rooster.
Yeah. But Tom York, despite his weird looks and despite his shriveled self,
Right.
It amazes me like how like empowering he is, like with his lyrics and his voice. You know what I mean? Like, who would have thought at like the Glastonbury Festival in Britain, fucking 100,000 people, this guy of all people can control this many people with his presence, with his words. You know what I mean? And I don't even think it matters like what you look like or what you're about. You know, it's just what you stand for and what you believe in. And you know,
right, but it says something.
It does.
And what it really says is, I mean, you notice how the music industry always wants good-looking people.
Totally.
Always, and pushes those. So when you see someone in the music industry that looks ugly as fuck like myself, then you know they're doing some powerful fucking shit.
Right.
You know what I mean? They've got some fucking skill at whatever they're doing.
Now,
same thing when you see an ugly dude with a good-looking hottie. He's got money.
Right.
No.
But what I was going to say, I think we're putting a lot of credit on Tom York for just a second real quick.
Yeah.
Now, I feel terrible for not knowing the other bandmates' names, but their guitar players are fucking phenomenal together.
Right.
The bass player, he can keep the groove going so well, and the drummer, we were talking about the drummer the other night.
Right.
And like he has these beats.
Phil Solway.
He has these beats that are like almost hip hopish, like in the sense of it's like a grooving beat. But then you look at the guy, he's like this short little bald guy.
Yeah.
Bald white guy.
Right.
And
he knows what he's doing, man.
Totally. I think he's a very well trained and very like, you know, into his craft as being a drummer that he can do. I think they're all amazing musicians, you know, but I think the drummer has like a lot of like control that he can do stuff like that, like this, you know, like very grooving.
Well, especially whenever he puts in the acoustic drums and mixes it with the digital electronic drums.
Totally. And it was cool to know that they went from the acoustic setup of acoustic drums and guitars, and they made a huge change to electronic music, electronic sounding music for Kid A.
Oh yeah, that was a great time.
And to my understanding, that's probably your favorite album by them, right?
Right. Kid A is my favorite. Of course, I really do enjoy electronic music in general. But, you know, on Amnesiac, apparently a lot of those songs were a spillover from Kid A.
I heard that Amnesiac is actually like the sister CD to Kid A. So if you were to listen to Kid A and Amnesiac together, it's pretty much the same package.
They went into Kid A with 20 songs.
Yeah.
And surely 20 songs weren't going to make it on Kid A.
Totally.
So a lot of it is a spillover, and I'm sure there's probably some others. But, yeah, that sound is whenever everything got more, even further artsy, and they started playing different instruments, and it wasn't about the general setup.
Yeah, they took away their setup of 3 guitars and a drum set, and they switched them with synthesizers and drum machines and the theremin thing that
Johnny Greenwood plays.
Yeah, it's this weird.
It's an electronic theremin.
Yeah,
it's not just where you put your hand in the air and it, you know.
Jimmy Page actually used one of those before.
I believe it, man. It's these fucking artsy bands we're talking
British
about.
bands.
British artsy bands.
But no, I think the theremin that you're talking about, it's like a screen, and then like you put your finger on it, and you can like sort of direct the sound. You can control the woo. You can do that with just your finger. It's
like a saucillator or something like that.
I don't know, man. I'm no fucking instrument specialist.
They're fucking interesting, and like if you see his live shows on what is it? Everything in its right place.
Right.
He'll use that live, and it sounds different than the CD way, definitely. Yeah. But he'll play with it and it's from the recordings of their live music that they just did, and they'll play through that. And I can't go into detail about how awesome this is. You're just gonna have to YouTube it.
Totally. When you hear a band do something different than their album, does that make you like happy, or does that piss you off? Like when, like, say you were listening to everything that's right placed on the album and you just fell in love with it, and then you were listening to it live, and they, like you say, like they do things different, like with the theremin, and they do these weird sounds, and maybe Tom York does different notes or whatever. Like,
I love it.
Yeah.
I love the mix. There's only one time that it actually pissed me off, so to speak, and I got over that.
Okay. It excites me, to be honest with you, because I feel like I'm listening something completely brand new.
Right.
And it excites, in a weird way, it excites me because I know that they're playing it for the first time. So in their head, they're able to experience the audience reacting to it for the first time.
Yeah, it's almost a social experiment.
Yeah, like we're all in it together. We're all experiencing the same thing together for the first time.
Right.
You know, and that's fucking beautiful. But when you add in some Radiohead music at the same time, that's even better in my opinion. But
right.
Speaking about that song, Everything in Its Right Place, that was a big one for me.
Yeah.
That was a really, really big one for me.
That's actually, that's not going to be my song for today. But I wanted it to be so bad.
Right.
I really wanted it to be. I wanted to share it with you guys, but I'm just going to go and say that is my favorite Radiohead song.
I'm down with that, man. That fucking song. I have I don't want to take up too much time using this story, but I do kind of have a story behind it.
Yeah, let's go, man.
Okay, I'm going to make it as best as I can. Okay, so back in the day, I'd say back in the day, I want to say like 2010 or 2011, there was this guy who figured out, and I'm using the bunny ears, you can't see him, guys, but quote unquote figured out.
I see it.
He figured out when the world was going to end by using the Bible.
Okay.
Do you remember hearing anything about this?
No,
okay.
I mean they're always saying that to different people.
Okay, it was probably 2010 because I moved away. I moved to Ohio, and this guy was like, you know, there's these verses in the Bible that predict when the world is going to end, and it was on a certain date in 2010 or 2011. I don't remember exactly, but it was coverage on the news. This guy predicts that the world is going to end this weekend. Tune in, 8:00 for the news.
Yeah.
And I call bullshit on stuff like that a lot of the time just because people are people, but I genuinely have a fear of the world ending.
Right. So
even though I call bullshit on the guy, I'm still thinking, what if? What if this really does end? Okay. So I'm with my family and we're driving to this place in Indiana that's like a campground. And in the back of my head, I just keep thinking, what if? What if the world really is going to end? I put my earbuds in, and Everything in Its Right Place was the first song to play on my shuffle. And we're driving, and I'm just staring out the window, and
First of all, you have earbuds in. That everybody listening to this, you have to listen to that song with earbuds.
Absolutely,
There's no other way to listen to that unless you've got the really professional headphones that go over your ears.
Right.
That's not something you play on your speaker unless you know what you're doing.
But anyway, so I put my buds in, and I'm just looking out the window of the car, and the clouds are like this really light gray, like it's about to rain, but it doesn't rain. And I'm just staring as, like, I'm watching everything just pass by me. And in the back of my head, I just keep thinking, what if? What if this really is it? And I'm just I'm in the backseat of the SUV, and I'm just watching the world pass by me. And I'm thinking, this is the best fucking soundtrack to the end of the world.
It is.
I do believe that Everything in Its Right Place is the best song to listen to if the world was going to end.
Right. At least from Radiohead.
At least from Radiohead. Runner up, It's the End of the World by R.E.M.
As we know it. Yeah, see, for me, that song was played for me whenever I was in a time in my life, whenever I was, smoking weed all the time, and I was always kind of a naturally high. It was just my natural way that I was in that moment of time. I had I was working at ProMark telesurveying. I didn't really have much of a life.
Yeah.
You could even say I was a loser, but probably not for the age I was. It was pretty realistic. But I was still really spiritual. I was probably closer to Buddhism than I ever was, and I was, always researching different concepts, and I was in the frame of mind, still am, that reality is just a hologram of itself, and listening to a song like that for the first time really it knocks you on your ass.
Totally.
And god damn, I just want to play that song for you guys. That's if I could choose one, I'd want to do that. But
well, we're talking very heavily about how this band is hitting us, like how it's having a huge effect on us.
Right.
After that song, after Kid A, I kind of checked out on Radiohead for a little while. I think I was becoming a very young adult, so for me, I was just starting to get into more heavier rock and everything like that. But I did come back to Radiohead for a very important album titled In Rainbows, which my song is on In Rainbows. And
I figured it would be.
That was a huge album for me because, you know, like I said, like I checked out on Radiohead, and I almost I listened to music, but I checked out on being like interested in music. Like I just listened to what was on MTV or on the radio. I didn't really have any albums to myself. You know, I was just sort of like listening to what's going on, and then if I liked it, I liked it. I didn't like it, it was whatever to me. But In Rainbows was the first album that I listened to that got me excited about music.
I remember the moment in time whenever you started listening to In Rainbows.
Yeah, like that was heavy shit for me, man. Like
you were connecting pretty well with it, and you
I was excited about it.
Yeah,
I would make my friends listen to that album.
Yeah, I know.
And,
but I loved it too after a while. And actually, this is the album where they had it set up for a digital download, set your price.
Right.
Basically, you pay whatever the fuck you want to for it.
Yeah.
And yet, you know, it still hit number 1 in the U.S. Billboard 200.
Yeah.
Of course, in October 2008. It sold more than 3 million copies, both digital and physical. And 2009, it won 2 Grammy Awards.
Totally. And it deserves every bit of credit it got.
Right.
And, you know, I remember hearing, like, that was the album. Like, I remember hearing, like, that was their first album off their contract with their label EMI. And
right.
I remember at that at that age, I didn't really think that much of it. But I remember, like, doing the research afterwards and realizing that they are an independent artist and they're doing everything by themselves. And they recorded and they're releasing this totally on their own. And it's a huge success. And I remember even at that age, I was thinking, like, this is kind of a big fuck you to labels.
It is.
This is so awesome. Like, I remember feeling like this band is doing something.
Right.
They're doing something big. And then the album is so fucking great. It's like, this is like the next fucking Dark Side. You know, now that might be a big...
No, that's not. It is the next fucking Dark Side.
Okay.
Maybe not In Rainbow specifically, but as far as... I mean, let's face it. Radiohead is our generation's Pink Floyd.
Okay, I absolutely agree with you on that one.
Just because it's not talking about the same things that you always hear from bands all the time that the labels are pushing. They're pushing sex. They're pushing love. They're pushing...
You want to know what's really funny, though?
What?
In Rainbows, like... It's said that all those songs are supposed to be like real seductive.
That's what his point was.
Yeah.
Right.
And I found it so funny because
weird fishes.
I found it so funny to think that of all the people that could seduce a woman,
Tom York.
You got fucking little Tom York turning into fucking Esteban.
Come over here.
Come over here. He gets that thick Spanish accent. Come over here. Take off your panties. But
open my left eye just a little bit more. I want to see you.
But
brush my hair. Okay.
But no, okay. Are you good?
I think I've got a few more in me.
Okay, don't.
No, okay.
But it's funny to know that was like those songs were considered like seducing, or like when you take that word out of its literal meaning and seductive, and now it pulls you in.
Right.
Totally. I 100% agree that it pulls you in.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I mean...
there is an intimacy.
Absolutely. I mean, you think about songs like Nude, and you think about songs like House of Cards.
Right.
House of Cards, especially, like, I don't want to be your friend, I just want to be your lover.
Yeah,
like, that one took me a while to get into, but whenever I sort of attach that to my life, like, that's like my life right there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The House of Cards is very much like my life. But I guess...
Do you want to be my lover?
I just want to be your friend, man. But I guess I want to go ahead and I want to present my song, which, before I get into my song, both of us had a very hard time in deciding what song we wanted to go with.
It was a pain in the fucking ass.
And I just have some honorable mentions that I would like to say that did not make the cut.
Right.
Obviously, a song that I said earlier, Paranoid Android, that was my introduction to Radiohead.
Right.
If it wasn't for that song and that music video, then honestly, I don't know what I'd be doing now.
By the way, all of these songs, if you haven't heard them, you need to check them out on your own time.
Absolutely.
After this podcast.
I went with Karma Police, which is a very beautiful song.
Right.
I went with a song called There There, which, if you haven't listened to, it's almost tribal in a weird way with their drums, because I know that the drummer plays the drums, and I think two of the guitarists have like tom drums in front of them, and they're doing some drums, and I think like Tom is like doing like some like shaker type thing. Like, it's very drum oriented, and it's very tribal, and it's very fucking cool.
Percussion.
Everything in its right place. Obviously, it has a big part to me. Creep. Obviously, that was in there. You know, that's a big one for me. High and Dry, simply because I just tried to pick up a chick with that song, so it's very near and dear to me.
Right.
No Surprises off of OK Computer. It's very slow and it's very depressing, but it's very beautiful.
It is.
Amazing, beautiful song. And Let Down. Same style, very kind of...
I don't think I've heard Let Down.
Let Down's a great song. We'll listen to it. But if I had to go with one song, I would go with Weird Fishes.
picked over by the worms. I'm wet fishing. Weird fishing. Weird fishing.
I really wish that we would have recorded the sound of me singing along to that song, to Weird Fishes, because that would have sounded so terrible. But no, I love that song so much. That was the first song that really made me feel something. And that's hard for me to say because you think anytime you listen to music, you feel something. But that song, anytime I would listen to it, it would just take a hold of me so much. And it's everything. It's the bass, it's the guitar, it's the drums, it's the vocals. But it wasn't until later that the lyric, everybody leaves when they get the chance, and this is my chance. Like the idea of being able to break free.
Wow.
That was the lyric that has always spoke. If I were to go the stupid route and get a lyric tattooed on me, it would probably be that one. True story.
Well, yeah, no, I mean that's cool. My lyric that I would get tattooed is much less deep. Ultimately.
What is it? I've been a bad girl.
Yeah. No, it's actually I've been careless with a delicate man. No.
That's okay. We don't get into that. Okay. My song, Weird Fishes, off of In Rainbows. Please listen to it. No matter what place you are in life, I really want you to listen to Weird Fishes. Johnny, what is your song?
Okay. Well, going into that detail, and especially including Weird Fishes, I want to talk about what I really like from Tom York.
Okay.
And his lyricism.
Okay.
What I like is the fact that he has these abstract lyrics, just like many other musicians do. But he also has this down-to-earth, realistic dialogue to him as well. So, I mean, it's kind of like what you get out of like the rap world, so to speak. You know what I mean? You hear how people really fucking talk instead of like the fucking Renaissance style lyricism, Shakespearean that you usually hear from this kind of music. You know, it's you know, words meaning other words, not going into the actual detail. And you do hear that with Radiohead, but you also hear, you know, Weird Fishes. I mean, weird is a word that's certainly from a human perspective instead of a cosmic perspective.
Right.
You know, and that's one thing that I really like. Also like Packed in Sardines in a Crushed Tin Box, you've got I'm a Reasonable Man, Get Off My Case.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of different things that Tom York talks about is really, you know, like even on Paranoid Android, there's words that are just like so realistic.
Yeah.
And that's what I feel about that. I wanted my song to be was going back into the conversation that we were having about how the rise of Radiohead was such a big deal for Tom and the rest of the band because they really just wanted to be a fucking art band. Mm-hmm. They didn't care for the fame, and they, whenever it comes down to it, you know, Creep was to them their iron lung because it was necessary to survive, but they at the same time dreaded it. You know, it was harmful to them, even though it was what made them live.
Yeah, totally.
You know, and so My Iron Lung is the song that I want to play because it goes into detail and it's got musical aspects of it, even though it's earlier Radiohead. It is a lot of the time whenever you can see they went into their whole different sort of style of music instead of, you know, sticking with just that one normal casual flow of a regular song. They really do have picture painted, you know. So this is Radiohead's off of the Bins, My Iron Lung.
Okay.
Do it every day.
That was the first time I've ever listened to that song.
Yeah.
And it's crazy because I think in my head I've kind of developed, like, it surprises me to hear them like that because I'm so used to hearing them like out there,
Right.
like in their later. And I listen.
Right.
I listen to a good majority of every album, but
Certainly.
to be able to hear like them go back to like their old stuff, it almost, I don't want to sound old, but it feels like they sound old. You know, like they sound like a classic rock kind of band.
Well, I mean, like that sound is it's really beautiful, and that's one of the times whenever like Johnny Greenwood's Telecaster had that sound to it.
Yeah.
You know, it's that something about his picking. I can't really go into words to detail to really describe exactly the sound that he has, but it does have that older sound to it.
Totally.
And it kind of almost is like what we're talking about with like Nirvana and their older stuff before Nevermind.
Yeah.
You know, and then when Nevermind came around, that's kind of like when Kid A came out, and
Totally.
that's when the change was whenever it wasn't just this anymore. It was a whole different fucking ball game.
Totally.
But
I dug it. I dug the whole thing. The raunchiness of what I assume was the chorus, and then just the overall lyrics. Like I dug that very much.
Yeah,
man.
you could see with what I was talking about on the lyrics, where it was fucking straight up talking about Creep and what they made off of Creep.
Yeah,
you know, it was almost making fun of the people who really just love that one sound that, you know, the media pushes, you know, and they could tell, and they didn't want that song to define them, and it fucking did.
Yeah. I think it takes a real artist to be able to like straight up say like fuck you to their entire audience. Totally, because that's
well, like it shows you that they don't. I mean, it's not that they don't give a shit about the audience. When it comes down to, they really give a shit about the audience, but mostly the ones who are really in it to win it, not the ones who just claim.
Totally.
You know,
posers.
And that is what it's about, man. And not like there's anything wrong with posing, I guess. I mean, it's be true, you know, be genuine. If you like something, cool, like it. If you don't like something, that's okay too, but don't, you know, they don't want you to put their name on something, you know, if you're not going to stand by it.
And it's crazy to think that a band has that sort of message behind their music. Like, you may not think about it when you listen to their music, but it's very much true. Like, you stand true to what it is that you want and what you believe in.
Right.
And I think Radiohead, of all bands, I think that's what they stand for.
They do stand for truth and a genuine nature, you know, ingenuity.
Right.
You know, which is I think that's actually the name of one of the Atoms for Peace songs. Which Atoms for Peace is a Tom York project,
right,
that he does, which, you know, I just kind of wanted to plug Atoms for Peace and Tom York's single albums that he did, and because those were pretty awesome, and they did take a lot of what was Radiohead.
Yeah. You know, their last album was in 2011, King of Limbs.
Yeah.
Which was a good album.
I never really gave it a chance. I didn't even like the song. The only heard the one song, Lotus Flower, and whenever I listened to it, I never connected to it. So not that I wouldn't be able to.
Yeah, I know. I definitely connected to it. Lotus Flower, I think, is an amazing song. But the thing I was getting at, that I feel like we can sort of wrap it up with, is that was their last album came out in 2011, the Radiohead.
Right.
And Tom York, he's doing Atoms for Peace, and
surely
he's doing his own solo things. And I know Radiohead, they're still doing shows, but as far as their last album goes, there was 2011, which is, 4 years ago?
Yeah.
Coming on 5 years. Which is a long time to be out of the music game, as far as like writing and releasing new material. You know, your audience begins to wonder, like, when are they going to come back and when are they going to put out something? But I kind of feel like if they didn't, I think it would be okay. And I say that wanting to hear them for the rest of my life, but I feel like
they did put out some work that
I know that, but
really defines, you know, what they can produce. You know, I mean, I think it would be hard to actually beat that which they've already done for anybody.
Yeah. But I think if they do or if they don't come back, I think they've left one hell of a legacy.
Surely.
And I think that their songs are going to bleed into the next generation and into the next generation. I think it's going to continue on.
They will be the Pink Floyd that we see Pink Floyd today.
I definitely think so. And if it wasn't our opinion that said so, and if, it was the opinions of magazines that claimed that fucking In Rainbows was the best album of 2007, and fucking Kid was the best album of 2000, and if Pablo Honey was the greatest debut album that a band ever did, there's always going to be someone that discovers them for the very first time.
Yeah.
And they're just going to be blown away. I mean, they don't need anybody else's opinions. You don't need anybody else's opinions.
Right.
All you need is your own, and you need to be sucked into this world of music to where they take you on a journey.
Well, they even have a shadow already, I mean, you can see it. You've seen the Social Network.
Yeah.
You've seen the music video or the trailer where they play, where it's like children's voices singing Creep.
Yeah.
And that is fucking haunting.
Yeah.
Which I think Trent Reznor did the score.
Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross.
Oh, and Atticus Ross.
Yeah.
So 2/3 of
How to Destroy an Angel.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, knowing that there was that choir version of Creep in a movie like Social Net, a movie about fucking Facebook, Radiohead's creeping their way in. Do you see what I did there?
Yeah. Yeah.
I was
They
expecting.
creep-
I was
They
expecting.
creep their way in.
I was expecting a bigger laugh. But anyways,
No, I just now get it, actually.
that's terrible, John.
Yeah, no. Oh.
But anyways, Radiohead was Radiohead is probably in my top 5 of my favorite bands of all time, and I think it's always going to be up there. I mean, no matter if their next album comes in the next year, and there's so much hype about it's their first album in 5 years, and it's complete shit.
Like it even has like fart noises.
Total, I would love it anyways.
Right. Well, I probably wouldn't, but I'd at least refer back to the other albums. I would get mad. I'd be like, look, man, these guys come out with this music and then this music. What the fuck?
Right.
But I don't think that's going to happen anyway,
Nah,
so I don't know what we're talking about. Yeah. So I'm really grateful we got to do this podcast on Radiohead.
Me too, man. I can't wait for our next one to be like a different band, which I think is something we're going to do.
You think so?
I think we'll
It was worth all the research.
The research, and then the being able to listen to new songs that we didn't ever listen to.
Right.
It felt fun to learn about a band instead of just learn about yourself from the music. Diving into their world and understanding where they were coming from with their music, and I'm grateful that we got to do it too.
So this is John and Niko signing off with the Conversationalist. Goodbye, good night, and good luck.